Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Shift, when the shift hits the fan. My name's Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here once again with my co-host, Linda Lehman. And tonight, we're tackling something that, to most people, is something they run into pretty near every single day of their lives. At some time or another, we're going to get overwhelmed. It can happen at dinner time when you get rushing home from wherever you've been and you're trying to get supper on the table and everybody's yelling at you and running around and doing stuff. Or it could be if you're working at a job and you've been given more tasks than you feel capable of completing. It can be you can't find a toothpaste in the morning and you gotta brush your teeth. It can be anything. We get overwhelmed all the time. And what is overwhelmed? Overwhelmed is thinking too far in advance and not having the stairway to get there. That's all that overwhelmed is. And it's so pretty simple, right? Well, I can solve that problem. And you certainly can. It's just that we get into that state of excitement and anxiety, and it really does vault past fast. It's a quick emotion. It gets there really quick because it's tied into your fight or flight. And it's just almost a core reaction that happens quickly. So sometimes we get overwhelmed. We start feeling it almost immediately when something doesn't go the way we expected it to go, or things are happening where we don't feel comfortable, when things happen when somebody asks us to do something and we don't have all the tools we need or the information we need. I mean, it's just everywhere in your life, and it equals stress and it equals bad stuff. And so I love this quote. It's one that I have actually on my wall. So I wanted to use it tonight. And it's within you, there's a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself. And that's like we talk about all the time when we did Stress Busters. It's the same kind of thing. But tonight we're talking about the overwhelmed to the point now you never dealt with it, you kept going with it, and now you're ready to throw in the towel because you are at the breaking point. And so what do you do now? What do you do now? Because we know being overwhelmed is easy. I just took a big step and didn't have the support, but now you're straddled between overwhelmed and your support, and there's a big cavern there, and all you're doing right now is watching it. So what do you do next? Linda, I know that both of us have gone through some major things in our lives that you could become very overwhelmed. But just before we went on the show tonight, you talked about a few things that are happening in your life right now. Now, for some people, wait till you hear what she's doing, crazy lady. But for some people, that would be totally not within the realm of reality to choose what you're going to do. And I'm going to let you tell it in your own way here, because you're going to have people, all of our listeners out there, shaking their heads going, what? So tell me about what's going on in your life and the feelings that come up, because I know that it can get there. But here I am. I'm on the edge, Linda. I'm on the edge. I'm just barely hanging on. And our listeners need your help. So tell them a little bit about what's going on with you, and then let's get into how do we make it a little more comfortable out there.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. And, you know, our listeners that are now sitting on the edge of their seats, the first thing I want them to do is just lean back, relax, take a deep breath in, and let it out very slowly. And then I'll share my story. But that's a hint. That's a clue on what we all need to do when we're starting to have that welling up, those feelings of overwhelm. You know, yes, we were talking about it right before we came on the show, Mark, and I know even in my distant past, I tend to find myself in situations that, you know, most people would look at me and go, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're just not sitting in the corner huddled up going, I can't do this. Because it seems like when I do one big thing, I like to do many big things all at the same time. So as everyone knows, a couple of things. Number one, everyone knows I still have a toe in the corporate and definitely more than a toe, but a big fat foot in my coaching and speaking business as well. And we're looking at the calendar here. We're at the end of August. Well, I have this big project that has a lot of moving parts. It's a very short time frame, and that project goes live on October the 1st. Well, at the same time, Mark, Randy and I are moving to a new house September the 29th, at the end of the month. We're moving, so it's 2 days before this big go-live thing. And it's a good news. The next step in my breast cancer healing journey is upon me. And it's come time. The tumor has shrunk enough, and I met with surgeons, and I'm going to meet with some more in the next week or so. But it's decision time there, and I've made the decision. I was given a choice. Everyone has a choice, but I was given a choice, and I have chosen to have a mastectomy with immediate reconstruction using my own tummy fat. So I'm basically getting a tummy tuck and a boob job at the same time. Mm-hmm. And this is going to happen right after the first week in October. So right after, and right during all of this stuff, I'm also getting more testing done, because, of course, the reconstructive surgeon wants to check the vascularity of everything. So all of this is going on. There's a big decision. You know, I've never had surgery before, so it's a big deal to me to be looking at, you know, not only just the mastectomy piece of the surgery, which for some people that can be overwhelming in and of itself, but then the type of reconstruction that I'm having done, we're probably looking at a good 6 to 8 hours under anesthesia to get this whole process done. Mm-hmm. And then the recovery after that. So it would be incredibly easy for me to sit down and like a 2-year-old and just start kicking up my heels, because if I were to stop and get emotionally involved in the negative aspect of everything that's happening all in this very small, short time frame, Mark, I would definitely be feeling those feelings of overwhelm. And I have to tell you, if I had not gone through all of the training that I've gone through with Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield and reading and studying even Tony's stuff and others, I would not be dealing with this very well, because there are times when I do feel this feeling that starts in the pit of my stomach, and it's what I would call the fear feeling or the overwhelm feeling. I feel that try to bubble up anytime I focus too hard on again, the what could be the negative aspects of these. It would be very easy to just give up and give in to that. And, Mark, that's when it is so important for me and so important for our listeners to really grasp this process that I'm about to take them through, which is you got to breathe. I know it sounds so simple, and people, even my daughter sometimes, will say, well, Mom, I know. Or some people will say, Linda, I heard you in my head when this happened. You just told me to breathe. And I said, yes, it's that important. And when I say breathe, I don't just mean the unconscious, normal breathing that you do, but just very focused, very consciously taking in a deep breath, breathing from your belly, not from just the tip top of your lungs, but breathing all the way in. It's filling up your lungs from the bottom to the top and just letting it go. And I do that several times in a row, and that's helping you go inside yourself. You've heard people say going within. That helps you go within to that sanctuary that you quoted at the beginning of the show when you said within you there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself. That's what I mean. You're going to that sanctuary. You're breathing deeply in and out very slowly. You're getting a grasp of it, and then you're realizing, okay, what is the most important thing or step I need to take right this minute? Don't focus on all the other junk that's going on around you. What is the most important thing? relaxing and going within really helps you set these priorities. What's the most important thing right here in this moment? Let me take that tiny step. Let me take that tiny bite. And then once I'm over that one, once I get past that one, then I can take the next step and the next step. And you know what, Mark? In the end, it's all going to come together. It's all going to work out just as it should. There's nothing going on around us that is really out of whack. If we just focus on what it is that we want to accomplish, what the goal is. And, you know, I have several coming up all in a row. But I will accomplish each one if I focus only on what's important right now and then move on to the next and move on to the next. Does that make sense?
It makes absolutely sense. You know, and I'm going to say something. In that moment, when, again, I'll give you the scenario, you just come home, you barely put your purse or briefcase on the ground, and people are all over you, wanting you to get things done, and you know, the bedroom was supposed to be painted on the weekend, but you took off and went golfing, made a choice there. But anyways, what I do when I'm in the middle of this, and it could be anywhere, it could even be when, you know, I might be speaking with someone that I have a disagreement with, and it's getting to the point where I can see them, and I can feel, like Linda said, those little feelings gurgling up in me, where I'm losing control of my own self, and they've definitely lost control of them. Then I call it, and I'll just simply stop the whole motion totally, and I'll just say, you know what, I got to give myself a timeout. Most people look at me like I'm just bat crazy, but I'll just stop, and I say, whoa, I got to give myself a timeout here. Give me 2 seconds. Be right back. That's not only calming me down, but it's also giving them time to stop what they're doing. See, I gave them that gift.
You did.
And so when you're in the middle of that, when that's all you got to do is just say, you know, don't say, give me a timeout, or don't say things like, just hold on a second. I need a minute here. You know, give yourself a timeout. Everybody recognizes that as kind of like the punishment you got when you were being bad when you were little. You're getting a timeout. So they react to it differently than they think inside their minds, well, obviously you were doing something that you shouldn't have been doing, that you needed that timeout. But what you really have done is given them that gift for them to stop and say, did I do anything wrong too in this? Like, do I need a timeout? A different mechanism starts playing in their mind, and they won't start fuming around. Hopefully, we give the timeout long before things are so way out of control, but I also know how easily all of this can spiral. For instance, you're learning, a lot of you out there are internet marketers, and you're learning a lot of new skill sets. And it can be extremely overwhelming, because here's what you heard. You heard that you're going to make $100 million in a year, or whatever the latest fallacy out there is, or $100,000 in the next 90 days. The fact of the matter is, very rarely do people do that. I mean, that's a fact. Very rarely do people do that. Only about 1 to 3% of people actually make any money working on the internet. So here's the thing. You're already overwhelmed yourself by having the notion that that's accomplished, that you can accomplish that with no skill sets. Okay? The people that make that kind of money in that kind of time frame, they already know marketing. They already have basic persuasion skills, if not excellent persuasion skills. Some of them are masters in NLP. They have connections all over the place because they're actively doing things out in the community, on Facebook. They've got a following for something else that they're even doing. So they have the edge, and they're able to do those things. So you go out there and you say, what's wrong with me? How come I didn't do it? And that's the fact. A lot of times overwhelm comes when it's not even your fault. You've been given something by someone else that led your expectations to be higher than your skill set. And Linda, while you're calm through this too, I'm sure that if we looked at what's happening, I mean, you got the move, you got this. I mean, you're already categorizing, purging. Like, this isn't, oh, I'm going to move and it's just going to be all easy. I just meditate within myself. She's got a game plan happening here, people. She didn't just say, all of this is possible, but all of this is possible if I do this. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you want to make $100 million, you better start thinking about your first dollar. And stop spending $100,000 before you got your first dollar. And that's the way that Linda's going to attack this. And that's what she needs. And there are those times when you think, holy man, what did I just set myself up for? I did this, I did that, or I said publicly, yeah, I'm going to be the next superstar. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, what did I just say out loud? How did my mouth do that? Right, Linda?
That's right, Mark. I've done that before.
I've done it before.
But you're right. I have a plan, and it's not like I'm going to start packing for this move on the night before the moving truck gets here. We've already started, just to give us the time necessary so that we're not feeling totally overwhelmed the night before the truck gets loaded. And the same with I have to say, this choice that I made for the surgery, I know I sounded very nonchalant about it, but thinking back, and if we'll kind of I guess rewind back to some of our original shows, way back when I was first diagnosed last November, I was already deciding at that point in time what kind of surgery that I was going to choose for myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't just snap my fingers and say, oh, this is the one. Mark, it took hours and hours and hours of research. I researched every option that could possibly be thrown at me before I decided. And when I went in and met with that group of physicians back in February, after all of some additional testing, and they were face-to-face with me, I went into that meeting determined that I was going to tell them exactly how this was going to go. I was going to have this surgery, and all was well. Now, I got thrown for a loop, as a lot of people do, because they saw something I didn't, and they wanted me to be treated first with some kind of course. At first they thought it was going to be chemotherapy, and I'm very fortunate that I didn't have to go that route, but there was another medication route that I went to shrink this thing up first. But it still allowed me additional time to do additional research and then make my mind up is, when the day came, which it has come now, okay, Linda, it's time for surgery. Here's your choices. Which one do you choose? I didn't have to sit there and hem and haw. I already knew what I wanted, and I was able to say, well, this is my choice. This is what I want. What do we need to do to get there? And there's still some steps to get there. So Mark is right. And, even with, the other project that I'm doing, I've spent several years learning how to do this, learning how mm-hmm. to transition. What I'm doing is transitioning, multiple medical practices into another group practice, and so it's taken several years to learn how to do that. And I still, run up against interesting things that happen that I haven't ever run across before. But instead of giving up, I say, oh, that sounds like more research. Let me check into it, see what we can do to make this a smoother process. So even in my coaching business, my speaking business, it's not something that's happened overnight. It takes dedication. It takes a passion to do this. It takes work. It takes research. It takes knowing, what people are looking for, knowing, what works, what doesn't. And, every time that I'm in front of a group, Mark, I'm learning as I go too, because, I love learning. I will always continue to learn, because the day I say I know it all is the day I may as well just give up everything.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly. Every day is an adventure for me. I love connecting with people, but it's the same thing. So just because this is the star of our show tonight and being overwhelmed, and we don't have a lot of time to kind of put it through to you. This is a jumping off point, and our shows are like that. We pick different things because stuff comes into us over the week that we're off, and people are saying, well, that was great, but my situation is different. And we appreciate that, and that's when you can definitely get some one-on-one help from us for sure, because that's what we do. That's a good percentage of our businesses, or that's what we do. Like, we don't do this for fun coming on here. I mean, it's a great time, but it's part of our business. This is what both Linda and I do as one of our main businesses, that we work online and with people. So again, we're not psychologists or medical practitioners. Who we are is two women who have seen a lot of dust and dirt on the road, and it got on our shoes. And we know how to deal with it. And what we want to do coming here every week is to just give you some tools that the next time you find yourself in the fire, you're going to have a bit of an edge. The odds are going to be in your favor. Like Linda said, she researched everything. So when she went into that and had to make a conversation with her practitioners, and they told her this had to happen and that had to happen, first, I mean, she was able to do it with a rational part of her mind, not an emotional part. Although, let's not pretend here. The emotional part of this, and like Linda said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take to recover. I don't know, you know, we all do that. Am I going to wake up from the anesthesia? We have these thoughts. We all will. I don't know. I don't know. There's so many I don't knows in our lives. But the thing is, if we put so many in this basket in front of you, you're going to become overwhelmed. So the things that Linda will do, putting words in Linda's mouth, here I go. What she's going to do, though, she's going to look into it. She's going to be the healthiest that she can be. She's going to ask the questions. You know, what do I have to do to prepare to get the optimal results for this? Right? She's going to put the odds in her favor. And then if she was sitting with someone and they were going over her head with medical jargon, I'm sure she'd say, time out here, folks. This is not being absorbed by me, and I cannot make a rational decision based on that. And if they have any respect, and the people you're dealing with, if they have any respect or care for you at all, they're going to stop. It's a stoplight. It's a stoplight. It's not a yield light. It is a stoplight, like, stop. I'm not getting this. And we need to use those and be in control when people are putting stuff on us, or we put ourselves in that place. And we do it every single day because why? We jump too far ahead of the game. When I was going through my treatments, I did exactly the same thing that Linda did. I said, what's tomorrow? And they kept going, no, but, I go, no, what's tomorrow? When time do I have to be here? What are you going to do? What's the desired outcome? What could happen? What are things that I need to be wary of? I asked the questions that made me feel calm and comfortable inside myself, and I really didn't care that this person wanted to give me my 10-week, 20-week, and 30-week course. I wanted to know tomorrow. Now, certainly I'll like the rest of the plan, but I wanted to know tomorrow, and that's all I was concerned about. Because I wanted to go into tomorrow with all my strength, all my energy, and the best vibes that I could put on the plate. And then I asked about the next day, after I was done that day. And that's how it didn't overwhelm me to know, I heard the words, yes, I heard them. You have 2 weeks to live. I don't care. What about tomorrow? And so the 2 weeks to live was not going to affect the decision I made for tomorrow. Because I certainly could have done the same thing, right, Linda? We could do that. Well, I'm throwing in the towel then. Right. I see it every day with Mark's Angels. That's why there's so many of them. They gave up before they even had a shot at it. And why I'm here, why I do this show, is so you don't do that. Because that's not the desired outcome. Dead is not desired.
No. We all have too much to contribute to each other to throw in the towel.
No. And I know, Linda, that over the course of the next few months, we're meeting up again at the end of October to celebrate. Celebrate. And that's something that you also have to put on the dance card, my friends, is when I get to my goal, I'm going to celebrate like a madman. Like, celebrate like you've never seen before. And that can be, okay, a secret life of Mark. I do that when I get a room clean. I do my, yeah, you got the room clean, and I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but it releases, guess what it does? I've worked hard pushing my muscles, scrubbing walls, doing this, and you know what? Doing my little happy dance, relaxing, going down, having a little maybe glass of wine, treating myself to maybe a brownie because I burned off 80 million calories doing something. I feel good. My muscles are relaxed. My head is clear. I feel great. Now, most people, when they walk out of a room, they've just cleaned, maybe not so much. They look at the other rooms and think, oh, great, look what I've got to look forward to. I never do. I celebrate.
Yeah, celebrate what you've accomplished. That, Mark, we can't stress that enough, and it seems like people push that aside so much. Celebrate the accomplishments, even if it's a teeny-weeny little one. Celebrate it. It's going to make you feel so good, and it's going to energize you when you look around and say, okay, now what can I do next?
Yeah, and you know what? It's really cool. I like you guys. I like you guys, but there's something special I like about you. When I was down to see Randy and Linda here, it was funny because it was like almost every day we'd pick music for the day. Right? We weren't watching TV because we were working on a lot of projects. We have some big plans for the future, and we were working on a lot of different projects and reconnecting on different levels and stuff like that. But every day it's like, well, what kind of music do we need for today? And that was almost like, what do you want for breakfast, and what kind of music? And that was the only two decisions. I mean, we were busy. I mean, I went back, when I came back home, I thought, you know what, because it rained the whole time. Now, had it not rained the whole time, this might have been a different story, but maybe it rained the whole time, so we got all these things done, right? Maybe nature just said, they're going to go outside, get them back in. They got work to do.
I'll show them.
I don't know.
We'll put on the music and go.
Yeah. So we got a lot done. We got a lot of things planned. But here's the thing: you get up, you don't care what are we going to have for breakfast, and what kind of music do we want to play to today? And it set the tone, the mood, and the pace. There you go. Now we're talking specifics, right? Now we're talking plans, but it didn't feel like that. It was but it was conscious thing. Okay, we would have to sit down and say, yeah, what kind of music do we need for today? Then Linda might bring up something, no, I'm not, do we have anything like, no, so we all actually contributed to the music of the day.
And it wasn't just salsa.
No. Only salsa Saturdays.
Right.
But this is the thing. We plan. Oh my gosh, Linda, we're almost at the top of another hour, bottom of the hour, whatever it happens to be. And I'm going. We could go on and on and on about this. But here's the thing. I'm hoping from when you got on the show tonight and you read that, feeling overwhelmed and ready to throw in the towel, that the intensity, passion, and pace of the show by right now, I'm hoping that you're smiling a little bit. Maybe just a corner, a little glint. I hope that you're smiling. Just because you were here tonight, just because you know that, yeah, we all get into the rat's nest. We all fall into traps that we were not expecting. And we all have the tools and the ability to get out of them. God gave them to you. You just have to figure out, what kind of music do I want to dance to?
And do it.
Well, yeah, and do it. Dance.
Put the music on and dance to it.
Yeah. And nothing relieves stress more than that. Or a lot of times when I need to think and calm myself down, I do. I get in my car, blare the radio, take a drive, scenery and stuff like that. I'm fortunate because I have 2.5 seconds from, mountains and beautiful, gorgeous rivers and stuff like that. Like I choose to live where I do for a reason. But you have all around you and support and people and things that will support your journey if you choose, and only if you choose. If you choose to go out as a wild card, if you choose to give yourself goals and things that you have no way put there with a plan to get there, you're going to be overwhelmed. That's an absolute, irrevocable thing that's going to happen to you. That's just the way it is. But if you plan ahead, don't get too cocky or have too many expectations, you're going to do just fine. And again, we always say this. Nobody can put on you, right? Nobody can put it on you. You choose to accept it. And Linda, we're coming up here in the last couple seconds, and the last word is always yours because it's so awesome.
Oh, well, thank you, dear. I want to go back to the calming aspect of going within because that's so important. Number one, take small steps. You don't have to, old cliche, you don't have to eat the elephant in one bite. You eat it in small bites. So take small steps and celebrate those steps. But I want to go back to James Allen, the wonderful Victorian author. Just a piece, and I've read this whole thing before on our show, but it's just so important when we're battling overwhelm. So just the last few lines in his chapter on serenity, he said, "In the bark of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace, be still."
And as you were reading, I felt inside me the stillness and the calmness. And read books like that. Listen to music like that. That's all. Don't be overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed, once again, my friends, I hate to tell you this, but it is a choice. So from Linda and myself, well, good night, Linda, and thank you for listening tonight. We appreciate you.
Good night, Mark.
Night, Linda.